Hello, good afternoon. As you know, it's So-So, and we're back to adulting. What the? Episode 1. And today I pick a specific episode 1 because it reminds me of my experiences and like as being a child and my own personal things that I had to go through and understand. So our topic for the day is narcissistic parenting. And I chose that more specifically because I feel like there's a lot of people that could relate to you. Being that I'm the first child and I happen to be a girl, there's a lot of issues that you tend to have with your parent, more specifically your mother, depending on who raised you, or your father. And so let's start off today by defining a narcissistic personality disorder. It's a mental condition in which a person has an inflated view of themselves. And then they gain such a self-importance where they're above everyone else. And it's a deep need for acceptance and for admiration. And they have very much troubled relationships, and they lack empathy, where they cannot relate to others or put themselves in the other's shoes because they only see themselves from the point of view, and everything is something that benefits them. That's narcissistic. There's two types of narcissistic when it comes to parenting. There's engulfing narcissistic, where they see the kids as an extension of themselves, and they have to have full control of the kids in every aspect of their life. And there's the ignoring narcissistic, which they separate themselves completely from the kid. It's a clear boundary, and they're just worried about themselves. About the 10 main signs of basically recognizing a narcissistic parent. The first one would be, obviously, they live through you. Those parents are the parents that tend to they dictate every aspect of you. If they wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, or anything when they were growing up, they will make sure you do it. And they don't have any empathy for you, or they're not concerned with what you want to do. It's basically their whole life is turned out. They made you, and they have a whole set for you, and then you're supposed to follow the guidelines. Naturally, I'm a mother of two. I feel like with parenting, it's not for you to decide what the child should do. You're supposed to nurture the child, and you're supposed to guide them into selecting certain things. My child isn't me. My child is a whole person of their own. So I'm not here to make sure that my child basically fulfills this fantasy I had for them, because this is not my life. I'm here to prepare them so they could choose their own life. The second sign of being raised by a narcissistic parent is marginalism. With marginalism, it's like a nitpicking of everything that you do. It's very judgmental and criticism. As parents, they're supposed to criticize you, but with constant criticism, it doesn't work like that. I'll give you an example more that's like hit home. For example, I remember growing up, and it was just like nothing was ever good enough. If I have a A, it was just like, you know what, next time you could get A+. If I graduate, it's like, oh, what you gonna do next? It was never good enough. It was always constant nitpicking on my attire, my desire, the way I wear my hair. Just everything about me was always never good enough. And then on top of that, it was just like, and when you talk about it, they make you feel as if what you're saying is not right. They're not nitpicking, they want better for you, but in all reality, it's a form of manipulation that they're trying to do with you. The third example would be a superior complex, where they feel like they're above everyone. And the superior context isn't just you. The superior context is more just kind of like, just this family, like we are better than these people. We don't do that. That one I've experienced a few times myself, because my culture is very different. I'm just second generation American, but I'm a mixed person, but my culture is Haitian. And I remember getting married, and my husband he's mixed, but primarily he's Black American. And I remember getting married, the first thing was just kind of like, that was a big thing, was just kind of like, oh, you're too good for him. Or was it because I was a straight A student, like I didn't deserve that. I needed to be married to a doctor. It was just like we're not gonna belittle ourselves to be with these people. And it was something I never thought, because in America, it teaches you that we all have a dream. We all have the capability to be whatever we want to. So that is something I really like about this country, because you could come from a poor background, and if you get up there, you could get up there. It's an opportunity. When you go into the islands, it's more like classism, where it is like this. So that's a big thing where I try to separate, because at the end of the day, I am American. I live in this culture. This is my country. If we go to war now, by all means, this is where I stay. This is where I belong. This is where my allies are. So for you to sit there and think you're better than somebody, it's kind of like, it makes you wonder, what are you teaching the people? What are you teaching your child to be like? What complex are you installing in them? You know, and then back to the fourth one, which is a superior image. I'm going to get into example number 4, which is a superficial image. It's an idealization where you show that you're very special. And a lot of times with narcissistic parents, what they do is they put on an image where they're like Mother Teresa or Savior, or they'll coach everybody, when it's kind of like it's an image for the world to see, but back behind closed doors, that is not what they are at all. This is quite the opposite. A lot of narcissistic parents will tend to do more for their community and everyone else than they do for their own, which I honestly don't get, but you know, that's how it is. 5th signs of being raised by a narcissistic is manipulation. And manipulation is one thing that I can actually say that's like a pet peeve for me. I'd rather you come up front and let me know what's going on than for you to sit there and manipulate the situation. And narcissistic parents tend to manipulate every aspect. They will guilt trip you. They will blame you. They will shame you. They will have negative comparisons where they compare you to this other child or this person. Well, this person is doing this. Why can't you do this? This person did this. It's always a constant nitpicking between you and other people. They give you unreasonable pressure. At this age, you need to be married. At this age, you need to have this degree. By this age, you need to do something. And it's very unrealistic thinking. Mind you, some of them don't even help you accomplish these goals, but they set this rigid goal for you, which nobody can honestly obtain. So you're walking around with this lack of self, you know, like you feel like a failure, and they thrive on that. The emotional coercion. Well, they'll sit there and be like, if you love me, this is what you're gonna do. Or I love you the most, so I expect you to do this. It's like their love is a bargaining chip for you. They'll manipulate situations upon, you know, or punish you. Like, oh, you know what? I'll pay for your college, but this is the degree you need. I'll help you out, but you need to do this and this. When you're helping people, you're supposed to help them. As a mother, if I'm helping my daughter, I'm supposed to help her the way that I can. I cannot help you with limitations. I cannot help you where I'm helping you and then I set all these goals for you where in reality, I want you to do what I want to do. I'm manipulating you into doing what I want to do, and you have no say-so in there. And you're forced to put in a predicament where survival, where you might have to do that. 6 signs of being raised by a narcissistic parent is inflexibility and touchy. These are the parents that are very rigid in their ways. They do not care about how you feel or anything. So it's more like, you know, if I like this in a certain format, this is how you have to do it. If I want this done on this day, it centers all around them. They refuse to compromise. Lack of compromisation is a big sign of somebody that has a big self-worth, where they're not really concerned with you. Because when you love people and you want to be around them, you compromise because everybody's different. So it's always some kind of like they just stuck in their ways, and they're changing for anybody. 7th sign is lack of empathy. That one is one where I see it a lot, where a person cannot relate to you. Your parent will not relate to you at all in what you do. They don't care. If you have a loss that is your problem, anything that happens, it's like they can't be human enough to put themselves in your shoes. They're unable to see anything from your point of view. Everything is from an I standpoint. The mind is so narrow that they're unable to accept that maybe your feelings might be different from them. To them, it's out of the question. And you cannot raise children. I feel like it is inhumane to lack empathy, because that's what makes us human. Even animals have empathy. Even animals have empathy. And I will repeat that a 3rd time. Even animals have empathy, because empathy is a big characteristic of putting yourself in another person's shoes. It is a big thing about who your heart is and where you at. So as a parent, you want to sit there and have empathy for your children. You want to be able to relate to them and see where they're coming from, so you could guide them and structure them. You know, dismissing their feelings and everything causes them to have invalidation and self-worth. 8 signs of it is dependency or codependency. I've seen both. We have a lot of narcissistic parents where they cannot let you be dependent from them. It's a control issue where they have to micromanage you. And anytime they retaliate when you're different from them. So your first type is dependency, you know, where like you have to, parents, single mothers sometimes will sit there and depend on their children for everything. It'll be like, this is my child, you're supposed to take care of me. They have a feeling of stuff that you owe them, and that is your job. When in reality, it is not your job. If you choose to have children, that is your responsibility as a mother to take care of them and raise them to a certain level. I understand when they're adults, they're self-sufficient. But I am the parent. I chose to make you and have you here. So how do I have you take care of me? It comes a point in time in the future when I get older, yes, the roles will reverse. But as my child, when I'm doing the parenting, no. I have to be the one you have to be dependent on me. I cannot be dependent on you. The other type is codependency, where they make the child so dependent on them, the child is not able to have a life of their own. The child is enabled, they cannot function. They cannot do anything. They've never had a place of their own. They've never been able to do anything, the bills and everything. And it's kind of like they coddle to the point where it's a manipulative tactic, because they're doing it so that they can never be alone, or the child is always under them, where it undermines the child without the child realizing it. And it's not healthy either, because you should never be too codependent of anyone. Your life should not be surrounded on someone else. You should be able to live by yourself and be happy. The ninth sign of being raised by a narcissistic is jealousy and possession. They are very jealous and possessive of you. They will treat you like crap. But if someone else come and have a better relationship with you, they will sit there and they will get very mad. Like they will set boundaries with that person. This is my child. You become an object to them. You're no longer a person where you can have relationships with anybody, but you're in an object where you belong to them. And in reality, that's not the case. We are all independent people. You're supposed to, your child is supposed to be able to form different relationships with anybody. When you get older, you have a boss, you have a spouse. These are things that you're going to be able to form. So a person cannot really possess you to a certain aspect. And unfortunately, with narcissistic parent, you're seen as a property. You're not seen as a human being. You're seen as ownership, like this is a property, and that's not it. The 10th signs of narcissism is neglect, where, the neglect comes in many forms and everything, but what I'm going to talk about is the neglect in which, yes, when you have children, you provide them with a roof over their head, you provide them with their food, but emotional neglect is something that a lot of people don't talk about. Neglect comes in many forms, and one of the most underlying neglects that happen is the simple fact that they don't care about your emotional state. They don't care whether you're happy or not. They provide you with the basics. But one thing I have to say is I'm learning that, children, we as humans need to learn how to love. When you want your child to be a productive person in society, you have to teach them how to love other people. That is an emotional part of life that a lot of people don't think to teach you how to be humane. These are things where if you don't teach, you shouldn't be teaching yourself. These are things where your parents should be helping you, and then you learn from it through examples in life. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. These are the 10 main signs that I wanted to talk about. But there are other signs of narcissism that that I need to touch factor on. One big thing is that most narcissism, if they have more than one child, they will have a favorite child, and then they have a scapegoat. The golden child is a child that could do no harm. And when I say no harm, I mean they don't have anything to answer to. They do as they please, and the parent will uplift them, lie for them, protect their dignity in every aspect and of the way. The scapegoat child is the child that they blame for all of their behaviors, all of their misfortunes, and they also blame the child for their inability to parent right. So instead of saying, yes, I did not do this by her, the reason why I treat her this way is because this is how she acts. Where you put yourself in the same level as the child, not understanding that you're the parent. You're not supposed to downgrade yourself and level yourself off with the child. That is a personal hit home because, in my family, I'm the black sheep. I'm the bad child. I'm the one that don't listen. And a lot of times you play that guilt on you, and you question your self-worth. You question everything about you. And it took a long time for me to understand what was going on because I'm the oldest. So, when you're the oldest, you're the experimental baby. So I used to have a lot of excuses. But as I got older and then I saw my siblings were being treated differently from me, I will bring it up. And when you bring it up, I felt like, oh no, you're lying. You're making a big deal. You're very dramatic. I downplayed. There was no empathy for my feelings or any way whatsoever. It was more so of, you're causing problems. It wasn't until after being about 30 years old that finally, I was able, where there was obvious signs, and you know that yes, this is favoritism, because how do you have a set of rules for one child and you have a whole set of rules of this friend? Like, how does a child is the reason why you lack empathy for them? Your emotions has nothing to do with that child. That is your responsibility as a parent to sit there and control your own emotions. A child does not make you do certain things. And on top of that, I see this a lot in the Haitian community. You will have the son that's, oh my God, the king, and then you have your daughter where she's not good enough. You treat her like a peasant. You treat her like a stepchild where nothing is ever good enough. But it's the same parent. The daughter's in their kitchen, like cooking, cleaning, and everything, while the son gets to live like a prince. That is a golden child, and that is a scapegoat child. That, you know, you shouldn't manipulate your children or have these things. You should be able to treat your children the same way and hold them accountable for their behavior. Because how do you tell one person, yes, this is right, and the next person, no, you can't do that? It creates a lot of problems and animosity towards the kids without you realizing it. And sometimes you do realize it. They do realize it. They just choose to go that way. Gaslighting is another one where I didn't talk about it, but I want to touch, where they put you in a position where they tell you this, they fill your head up, and then they set you off, and then they're the victim. They're instigators. Instigators a situation. They use you for a particular motive, for a plot, you know, and then they put you out there, and after doing that, they claim no responsibility. So they send you out there where you have this whole image and not knowing what's going on, where it's like a setup without you understanding it. They lie on you. Yes, parents will lie on you. So instead of admitting that my behavior was bad, they will sit there and put a whole objective of you throughout the world. I personally suffered through that. After I lost my husband, it was something where, you know, while I'm grieving, and mind you, I'm being questioned within 3 months of losing this man that I was married to for 7 years, together for 10. You know, instead of being there for me, it was just more of a, oh, she's on drugs. No, I'm depressed. I lost my husband. I haven't slept in 3 days. I lost my appetite. No, you know, rather than sit there and try to see where I'm coming from, you put these thoughts, you put this whole agenda out in this world on how I am. I'm on drugs. I'm a bad mother. You know, all these things that never took place. So you're lying on me so you can make yourself look like a savior, or you can make yourself look bad instead of taking accountability for what you've done wrong. And the lastly is, again, the inability to admit fault. We're all humans. Being a parent doesn't come with a manual. This is something that you learn as you go. And I understand with your first children, you know, with each kid it gets better. But I don't understand why you're like a parent is unable to sit there and admit their faults and say that I'm wrong. If I've done you wrong, the best thing about it is to admit that. I don't care. There's no hierarchy here. Children have feelings too, and you have to consider their feelings. They are little humans. Yes, they're your child, but these are little humans that turn into big humans. So when you cannot never be wrong as a parent. It's not a manual, it's not a book. We all have different parenting styles, and what works for you as a child doesn't mean that's what works with your child. Each child have different personalities, but the biggest thing I've noticed is your inability to admit fault. Kind of like, because I am your mother, I am always right. No, I'm not. This is something we're learning as we go. So I cannot be always right, because there's no such thing as a perfect human. You're gonna have fault, and it is normal. But the good thing about fault is admitting the fault. Yes, I do believe in apologizing to your child when you step out of line, because it teaches them to admit when they have fault. It teaches them as adults to know to apologize when they've done something, because after all, your children live through examples of how you are. Whether we like it or not, who we are, we create a little human, and most of the time, they come out with a lot of characteristics that we bring on to them, and it's from us. And if we don't know to fix ourselves, how are we raising somebody to be exactly like us, to make the same exact mistakes as us? It's like a cycle repeating itself, which makes absolutely no sense. Hello, good afternoon. As you know, it's So-So, and we're back to adulting. What the? Episode 1. And today I pick a specific episode 1 because it reminds me of my experiences and like as being a child and my own personal things that I had to go through and understand. So our topic for the day is narcissistic parenting. And I chose that more specifically because I feel like there's a lot of people that could relate to you. Being that you know, I'm the first child and I happen to be a girl, there's a lot of issues that you tend to have with your parent, more specifically your mother, depending on who raised you, or your father. And so let's go start off today by defining a narcissistic personality disorder. It's a mental condition in which a person has an inflated view of themselves. And then they gain such a self-importance where they're above everyone else. And it's a deep need for acceptance and for admiration. And they have very much troubled relationships, and they lack empathy, where they cannot relate to others or put themselves in the other's shoes because they only see themselves from the point of view, and everything is something that benefits them. That's narcissistic. There's two types of narcissistic when it comes to parenting. There's engulfing narcissistic, where they see the kids as an extension of themselves, and they have to have full control of the kids in every aspect of their life. And there's the ignoring narcissistic, which they separate themselves completely from the kid. It's a clear boundary, and they're just worried about themselves. First off, I would like to sign off by talking about the 19 signs. I chose 19 because of narcissism.